Bearings. Point B is at a bearing of 60 degrees from point A. This is a worded sentence which can be translated to a diagram, and also symbols can be included. In continuation, a bearing, the word bearing, okay, the word bearing here in this topic is an angle. So bearing is like another word for angle. Okay. When you are looking at navigation in terms of planes or ships, very popular. Okay. It's an angle, a special angle, which is always measured from the North Pole in a clockwise direction. So bearing is an angle, but not just any angle. It's a very special angle that is always measured from the North Pole. So anytime you read the word bearing, then you have to think of a North Pole. You have to think of a North line, straight up north. And then you go to measure an angle in a clockwise direction, always in a clockwise direction. That's how they set it, because remember, the navigators have to set some kind of standard, some kind of consistency. So all the navigators will be speaking the same language. All right, all the different persons that are sailing or flying airplanes and so forth will be speaking that same language. Bearing, North Pole, clockwise direction, an angle. As a result, an imaginary line can be drawn from the point of origin to the point of destination. Okay. Certainly by now, you may have recognized the use of bearings in aerial and marine navigation. So here we have a diagram, as you can clearly see, and shows you the North Pole, the line for the North Pole, and bearings of 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. The 90 degrees is represented by a box from the North Pole that will bring you straight east. A bearing of 180 degrees from the North Pole will give you, it's a curve, which will bring you to the South Pole, straight down, because 180 degrees is the angle of a straight line. So a 180 degrees bearing will make you go straight down south. A bearing of 270 degrees from the North Pole, you are going to measure an angle of 270 degrees clockwise direction that will bring you straight due west. And a bearing of 360 degrees will bring you up, bring you back to the point of origin. Here you have an example. A sentence. Point B is at a bearing of 60 degrees from point A. How can we translate that symbolically? Well, so whenever you hear the word bearing, you must draw an offline. And then you put point A, because the sentence said from point A. So that's where the north line have to be pointing from, point A. Point A is the origin. Then you're starting to draw your angle from the line of the north line, anywhere around it, around there, clockwise direction, 60 degrees, not really drawn to scale. Bearings, you don't have to really drawn to scale. That's not the idea, especially for CXC. And then we know 60 degrees is less than 90 degrees. So that will not bring you to east. It will bring you somewhere between north and east, northeast. Oh, okay. And here it is. And then you draw the line from A, a straight line from A to B. And this is the angle bearing of 60 degrees. Then we have some questions. Draw point B at a bearing of dash angle from point A. Point B is at a bearing of 50 degrees from point A. How can we draw that? So here we have the diagram representing a bearing of 50 degrees from point A to point B. Now, it's always a very good idea, good practice when you are drawing bearings to indicate your north line that this arrow represents the north line. So you go to draw, write a little N about your north line, above the north line, yes. And since the question did not say from point B, bearing from point B, it is not necessary to draw, or it's not mandatory to draw a north line at B. So as you can see, it says point B is at a bearing of 50 degrees from point A. So this question mandates that you must draw a north line at point E, but it is not mandatory that you draw a north line at point B. It is not wrong, but it's not mandatory. So this diagram is an accurate depiction of a bearing of 50 degrees from point A to point B.